Imagine it. Northern California, 2007. A little bouncing baby boy of 5 years old wakes up on a bright summer morning, and upon walking out into the living room, sees his father cleaning out a cabinet full of strange cases with colorful designs. A blue spiky guy sticking his finger out, catching the boy's eye immediately. "Wow, gee, Pop, he says. Is that a Pokemon? Like from the hit cartoon Pokemon, the series Black and White?" "No, you dingus," the father says, smacking the game out of his hand. His beloved video game character is Sonic T Hedgehog. The T stands for fast. "Wanna see?" And with that, his whole world changed. Seeing the funny little goofy blue guy speed around and bleed rings got him thinking, what if there's more out there? One by one, he sought out more games, digging his way through the treasure trove that was the center console cabinet, creating so many memories and treasures, even reading through dozens of the ancient texts, telling the tale of other beloved games such as Splatterhouse 2, Sewer Shark, Chuck Rock. "Someday," the boy said to himself, "I'll play them all. Or at least just 36 of them. Looks like there's a lot."
So I own a lot of Genesis games. Like, a lot. 36 to be exact. Which got me thinking, we have 36 Genesis games, and I have only played, like, maybe a third of them. Or at least in terms of, like, actively played, maybe that's only about a quarter of them. I've tried, like, majority of them growing up, but, like, not really enough to where I have strong feelings about them. Which led me to this, of why not grab out all 36 games and rank them. And yes, I am copying Peter Knetter because I'm unoriginal and don't know how to do anything funny on my own. That's why I made my own physical tier board and why I'm even wearing a suit in this. I love you, Peter. I like your content, it's cool. I don't know why I'm saying it like as if he would see this. So, biggest note of this. These are all my personal rankings and my personal feelings on these. The way how I'm ranking these is based on how quickly I can get into said game and how much I enjoy it in that time. So it doesn't matter if it's a big popular game that everybody loves and I have to rank it objectively. If it's a popular game and I still didn't like it, I'm still gonna rank it low. Because I'm not gonna waste my time putting effort into a game that can't grab me just because it's popular. So, starting list that we're going with is the section of games that I have played so much that I know them like the back of my hand. The games that I grew up with ever since I was little. Starting with Shining in the Darkness. Okay. I loved this game so much. This is easily within my top 5 favorite games of all time right now. Like, it is that good. And it makes me mad because this game receives not a lot of love. Especially in this series. This is the very first game in the Shining series, which we'll get to Shining Force 2 later. But I love this game so much that okay, well, 2 things. One, I literally got a poster printed of the cover art of the game, and also I'm trying to work on 2 giant perler beads of 2 of the characters from the game. That should tell you. That, and also I have done an excessive amount of fan art of this. Yeah, I have issues. But anyways, because, okay, firstly, according to my notes, the top thing I wrote was just Pyra in all caps with a bunch of exclamation points. Because yes, I love her. I have never gotten so attached to a character so quickly than I have with her. And it's kind of insane. I just love her. I just love chaotic bitches like that. I love them. But, okay. So this is a first-person dungeon crawler RPG from 91, I believe. And this is one of the earliest games I ever played on my own. So basically, I've been playing this game ever since I was like 5 or 6, I think. And it's a lot, like, in the sense that it's a very confusing game going into it blind. But I didn't care. Like, I would boot up this game and create new save files and constantly delete the same one just to restart over and over and over again, just because I liked being in that world. And I didn't finally figure out what I was supposed to do until, like, last year. because I still haven't finished it, but I started doing like an active playthrough of the game, and I'm already on like the last trial. Other thing, it is a very tedious game. Like, it is constant, you know, just running around labyrinths, fighting enemies, grinding. Literally the first 2 hours of the game is just grinding, so you can beat a boss before you get your other 2 party members, and then you can go into like the trials. Which, yeah, it doesn't sound fun on paper, but to me, I don't mind it because I like that tedious nature of it. I find that fun. Because, like, there's a certain level of monotony that's enjoyable in RPGs. Remaster this game, for fuck's sake. This game and Shining Force 1 and 2 deserve remasters so badly. We were gonna get a mobile game based off the first 2 Shining Force games, but that got canceled. Last Nintendo Direct, there were so many RPGs that are getting remasters. Why not these games? These games deserve it. This is like the most underappreciated ones. These things get put on like virtual console stuff all the time. They even got added to like the Genesis NSO thing, like the expansion pass thing. These games got added, and they were included in like the Genesis Mega Drive collection thing. That's how I'm playing. Like, that's how I was playing Shining Force 1 for the first time because I bought that on Steam because you can buy them individually. That's how good these are. Like, they're putting them on these, but why not just actually remaster them? Like, do HD pixel art, or like even like a 2D kind of like looking thing with art. That'd be so cool looking. But no, they're giving it to all these other RPGs that, in my opinion, deserve it a little bit less. But I digress. Either way, solid S tier. Moving on to the next game. Original Sonic the Hedgehog. Not for resale. Okay, so full disclosure, I like this game. I really do. I grew up playing this game a lot, you know. I used to be really good at it. I don't know what it was, but when I was playing this game, like to get footage for it and just playing through it in general, I was doing so much more horribly than I usually do in this game, and that kind of made me mad. But it kind of made me realize I would argue that the first Sonic game is the weakest out of the classic Sonic games. If I was given like the choice between this one, Sonic 2, Sonic 3 or Sonic 3 Knuckles, or Sonic CD, this would probably be my last pick. The music still slaps though. I will give it that. I like it. It's definitely the weakest, which makes sense because if it's the first game, you're obviously not going to come out like you're going to come out swinging, but like you're still going to get upstaged eventually. So I think that's kind of a fair assessment of like, hey, this game is the first game of the series, so it's not going to be perfect, which is understandable. Also, people talk about how Labyrinth Zone is the most frustrating level in that game. It is, but I don't think people talk about Marble Zone enough. I don't know what it's been lately, but past few times I've played this game, I have had a hard time getting past that zone for whatever reason, and I don't understand it. I do like the special stage design. I do think that is a very unique way of doing special stages, and it is probably my second favorite version of the special stages. My favorite is still the blue spheres in Sonic 3 because I love that kind of stuff. But this is my second favorite. But all that being said, I'm gonna have to give this a B tier. Sonic Classics. So starting off with Sonic 2 specifically, music-wise, way better. Level design, way better. So when I was playing this game to get footage, I was blazing through these levels. I think that this game is more fair in how it's difficult. I think the first game, it's kind of unfair in what it throws against you sometimes. Like how if you have no rings and you don't get like that extra buffer of a hit compared to in this game, and also not having the spin dash really diminishes it a bit. But just like, it's just one of those things to where like it just feels cruel and it punishes you for going fast kind of thing. This game, it doesn't feel like it does that. Like, it feels like the layout is much more solid to where you can actually go fast like you're supposed to in a Sonic game without it feeling punishing. I will say though, these are probably my least favorite special stage designs. Like, I think I prefer the UFO catcher ones in Sonic CD over this. it's not even because they're difficult, it's just that they're the most boring to me, and I don't like that kind of became like the norm for Sonic special stages. That's why I really don't like the special stages in Sonic Heroes. I love that game, I just can't stand the special stages because they stole the special stages from this game. As for Mean Bean Machine, that's probably my favorite Puyo reskin that I've ever played, and just favorite version of Puyo Puyo in general. It is really fun, but holy f***, it's so hard. Like, it is a hard game. This is one of those games that, like, I will sit down and play for hours, even if I keep losing just because it's that much fun. Like, that is probably one of my favorite puzzle games of all time. I have to give this game an A rank. Road Rash 2. You can punch cops in this game, so it's really fun. This is a weirdly really addictive game that, like, I played a lot as well growing up. I didn't play this one as much as others. It was mainly I watched my dad play, but I just loved it because the music fucking slaps. It surprisingly doesn't have super janky hit detection, which, like, surprised me in a lot of ways because, especially after some of the games I played, which have horrible hit detection, this game has really solid hit detection. To where, like, if this was a very poorly programmed game, there'd be instances where I'm like a frame away, like a pixel away from an enemy, and it would register as a hit. In this game, you're still fine. You can be a pixel away, and you're fine. A tier. Flashback, The Quest for Identity. This is mainly a game I watched my dad play growing up. Flashback, The Quest for Identity. So this is one of those games that I mainly just watched my dad play growing up, so like, because I never played that much because this is a hard game, so it's mainly just kind of like that level of nostalgia of like just enjoying it for like watching it versus actually playing it, because I played this and I got stuck in like the first area. But that's not to say that it's bad, it's just challenging, and I appreciate it for that challenge. My only problem is I'm just really stupid sometimes. So, like, this is a game that I'm willing to get better at, though. Like, I am willing to learn how to play this game to get good at it, because I like it. This is one of those games that always fascinated me. I always thought the cover art was super cool. I always thought the story was really interesting. The level design is really cool, and just the music and the music cues. I will give this A tier, though. Original Mortal Kombat. This is another game. I really like it. It's really fun. Definitely the easiest of the trilogy, in terms of like beatability and also like learning moves, because like characters will really only have like one special attack. This one also has the easiest fatalities to pull off. To where like I actually, well, that might help because I actually have a guide for this game, like an old like player's guide magazine for this game. So I actually know how to do the fatalities and stuff. Versus the second or third game where I don't know how to do any of the fatalities or any of the other weird ones. It's kind of funny though, because so there's an arcade that's like not far from where I live. It's like a bar arcade thing. And like people are just allowed to come in just to play the arcade. They don't, even if they're minors. And it's like a you pay for like an hour or whatever, and you get like a limited play kind of thing. And they have a console of Mortal Kombat 2 there, and even in the past I've played like the arcade cabinet version of original Mortal Kombat, and like that was at a gas station on a road trip once. That was really weird. And it's just really interesting how much easier the console versions of these games are to control than those ones. To where like I've played both like the first and second game on arcade cabinets, and even though I know characters' moves, it's a lot harder to pull off. Like, in comparison to the other ones, this one is like with the first Sonic game. It's definitely the weakest. Like, this is not the one that I go back and play typically, unless I'm like, I really want to be good at this game. So I'll play this one because I'm not good at the other two, really. I don't know why I wrote this in my note, because no one's gonna give a shit, but my main in this game is Sub-Zero. So I'm gonna have to give it B tier, alongside Sonic. The next area of games we're getting into is games that I did grow up playing, but not as much as these ones. To where, like, I don't have that intense nostalgia for them, but they're still nostalgia, but just not as heavily. Shining Force 2! This is genuinely probably one of the best RPGs I've ever played. Like, this is better than Shining in the Darkness, I would argue. Like, in terms of quality, I think this is better. And it's a lot harder than the first Shining Force game, which I did not know. I was traumatized from how hard that Kraken battle was. Because, Jesus Christ. That took a mental toll on me. This is, to me, the ideal way how you do an RPG. Like, I like this style of RPG. It's fast, you know, it's like rapid fire, you know, like, it can go by very quickly. And I like that. I don't like when battles in RPGs are super long and dull and boring. This is how you do UI design for video games, especially for RPGs. Even for Shining in the Darkness, this is how you do UI design. It's very simple. You can tell what you're looking at. You know, like, you can figure it out, especially for, like, an old RPG like this. Like, you don't need a manual for it. And we're gonna get to that. That is a critical thing for me in RPGs, especially in these old ones. You should not need a freaking manual to figure out how to play it. You should be able to figure it out on your own, and it shouldn't be, like, completely ass backwards. That's the short of it. Similar to how I love Pyro so much in Shining in the Darkness, I freaking love Sarah in this game. This game definitely does have a bit more of a fan base than Shining Force. Wait, a little more than... No. It's about the same as Shining Force 1. Like, it's kind of equal, like, with these two games, but just in comparison to Shining in the Darkness, this one definitely has a very substantial fan base. Like, Shining in the Darkness has, like, damn near no fan base, and it makes me sad. Like, I could do a drawing of Sarah, and like, people who know this game will be like, oh, hey, that's Sarah. If I did a drawing of Pyro from Shining in the Darkness, a lot of people are gonna be all like, who's that? You know? Like, oh, yeah, that's the girl from Time Stalkers. Nobody would say that, because nobody knows what Time Stalkers is. Seriously, for the love of God, just remaster these freaking games! I wanna play them! I wanna play them in HD quality! S tier. Mortal Kombat 2. Way better than the first game, but I still don't like it as much. I like it because I like that there's more characters, and that's fun to learn how to work with those characters, but it's also the hardest one, I would argue, out of the original trilogy. I don't think I've ever even made it close to beating this game. Like, and I play these games on the easiest setting. I set them to very easy because I am bad at these games. And yet, even with this game on easiest, it is still really hard. As we're gonna learn with all these fighting games, I'm bad at them, but I like them. I find them fun. They're still fun to play as. Just, this is another one that, like, this is more so fun if it's, like, me and my dad playing against each other kind of thing. Because, like, we know the characters a bit better, and, like, and we're about relatively even matched in skill. If you're playing this game, like, by yourself, I would argue that this is, like, less fun than the first game at times, just because of the difficulty. Also, my main in this one is Reptile. B tier. Mortal Kombat 3. This one is shockingly easier than Mortal Kombat 2. Like, that really surprises me. Like, I always remember this game being the hardest one out of the trilogy, but, like, when I was going back and playing through it, I had the easiest time with this one. And when I was playing this game for getting notes, like, I was just mainly playing it casually. And even though I had it set on very easy, as we all know, that doesn't really mean anything, especially in comparison to Mortal Kombat 2, but I made it all the way up to Motaro. So, like, that was like the second to last fight in the game, and I managed to almost beat him. This game is more fun in terms of if you're doing, like, single player versus the second game, but this is also still very, very fun if you're doing multiplayer kind of thing. Like, this is usually the one that my dad and I, like, this is our go-to if we're playing, like, Mortal Kombat and we want to play against each other. Like, our go-to is always the third game because there is just such a wider variety of characters for us to just mess around with. I also love that this game actually has, like, a combo system and gives you points for that. My main in this game is Cyrax, which is I love because you can just spam his net attack constantly, and you'll just win every time. When it's me and my dad playing this game, I do that all the time, and it just pisses him off to no end because it's just funny to me. I give this game a solid S tier. Mortal Kombat 3 Ultimate. I did not know that this existed. I knew about Mortal Kombat Trilogy, but I knew that was only for PlayStation or something like that. But I saw this at a game store. I definitely think this is better than just Mortal Kombat 3, obviously, because it's the Ultimate version. But I do think this is more fun. I love that this has more characters to be able to play as. I would argue that it's a little bit harder than just base Mortal Kombat 3, mainly because there's endurance matches, and the endurance matches in this one are so much more cool than they are in the first game. My main in this one is Noob Saibot, and holy crap, that is the most OP character I've played as in any of these games, to where I can just spam 2 attacks back to back constantly throughout an entire match, and I just managed to beat them. S tier as well. Super Street Fighter 2. So I don't like Street Fighter as much as I like Mortal Kombat. It's still fun. I still think it's a fun fighting game, it's another thing that they have this version at the arcade that I like to go to. And I fared a little bit, for some reason I fared a little bit better on the arcade than I did in the console version. My main in this game specifically is always Fei Long, because I just like his speed with combos. Because that's the other thing I like with this game. So I like how, similar to Mortal Kombat 3, how it's very easy to rack up combos constantly. I just think that this game is way harder, and to a frustrating degree, to where this is a similar thing to Mortal Kombat 2, where it's too frustrating to play on your own, and it's a lot more fun to play against another person. A tier though. Golden Axe. I don't like this one really. I just hate how slow it moves, and it just has really shitty hitboxes. I don't know. Even just for a fantasy one, it's just very generic in terms of how it looks and whatnot. This would never be my go-to choice. That's the short of it. I'm gonna have to give it C tier. Now for the next section. Oh god, a precursor of what's to come next. Phantasy Star II. Yikes. In my notes, this is the one that I wrote the most notes on out of any other game because it just really frustrated me that badly. This is all of what I wrote. I wrote, exposition, the game. Obnoxious 3-second loop music. Too flashy. Doesn't even show item stats. Confusing AF. Literally needed my manual, which is bad game design by the way. TP, Monomate, which is a bunch of question marks by it. 18 types of magic, with a bunch of question marks. And I wrote, Shining in the Darkness is less confusing than this shit, I swear to God, or at the very least more charming. And I wrote, play for 20 minutes and already wanted to give up. And it deletes your freaking save file when you die. That should tell you everything you need to know. I get it, people like this game, it's a classic. For whatever reason, Phantasy Star is a big popular RPG series. I don't get it. I got a migraine during battle sequences from this game because it's just so flashy and bright and just obnoxious. If you need a manual to figure out what things are, what things mean, that's not good design. I think it has an interesting story and an interesting setup, especially for an RPG. I like that sci-fi fantasy kind of thing. The overworld sprites, how you look at that are just so ugly looking. I just don't like it. I think the simple talk sprites look cool, but okay, that's the other thing. The talk sprites are horrible because one, they don't even move their mouths. It's simple. Shining Force 1 and 2 does that. It just has a simple little open close mouth flap animation that it loops when characters are talking. So that way you can actually tell who's talking. Because in this game, it doesn't it doesn't create a new text box to just manifest over with the text. It instead just continues to go down to where one character is talking, and then it'll just go to the next line, but a different person is talking. So it's really confusing. I don't like this game. Like, yes, it is difficult, like, Shining in the Darkness, but that game is charming enough to where I can put past it. You know, like, I played this game once, like 5 years ago or whatever, or tried to, and I couldn't get into it then, and I still can't get into it now. I'm gonna be really mean to this, and I'm gonna give it F tier. On to sports games. WWF Raw. This game's kind of boring, it's dull, kind of confusing. There's weirdly no music that actually plays during matches. All there is just like reorchestrations of like wrestlers' themes and stuff like that in the selection menu, which is kind of cool. But that's really it. I just don't really have strong feelings on this one. Like, I didn't like it, like I couldn't get into it. D tier.
Fucking bullshit!
Joe Montana football. It could just be a skill issue. It could just be that I just don't know jack diddly about football. With all of these like classic era sports games, especially the EA ones, this one a little bit less so, is they're all extremely like technical and like stat based. And I can imagine if you did, it'd probably be a little bit more enjoyable, but just for me, at least in terms of the football ones, I just can't get into it because I just don't care for football. So I'm gonna be kind of mean to the football ones. I do kind of like the title music where you just hear Joe Montana go, "Welcome to Joe Montana football." D tier. Madden 93 and Madden 95. I don't like either of these games. They both suck. They're both confusing. Madden 93 to me is marginally more fun than Joe Montana, but not by much. I do think the graphics are marginally more interesting looking in 93 versus 95. For some reason, the 95 ones just look kind of weird. Like, they try to smooth them up, but it just kind of looks gross. Both D tier, because they're both hella mid. Tony LaRussa Baseball. This one specifically, I am also giving D tier, because this game is just really, really... Okay, this is another really slow-moving game, and I just don't like when games are that slow. For whatever reason, this game is a lot harder to figure out than LaRussa 95. I'd rather talk about that game, so I'm just gonna give this one a D tier. LaRussa 95. I actually like this one. This one actually plays decently. This one is actually moderately fun. Because I like baseball. I like sports games. Like, I like baseball sports games specifically. I recently got the Power Pros esports baseball game they released on Nintendo Switch. And that is a very, very fun baseball game. Even though it is still a very technical sport, like it's still a very technical game in terms of like stats and stuff like that. But to me, it's much easier to understand the stats in that game than in a game like these ones. But this one plays the most like one of those games. In Tony LaRussa the First, it also plays kind of like that, but still really confusing. Much more confusing than this one. This one, like I said, plays the most like a Power Pros game, and I really like how those games control. So I wouldn't rather play this over Power Pros, but it's the closest to Power Pros in quality, meaning that if I were to ever play any of these sports games again, this is the one I would much rather pick up and play. But I still give it a C tier.
Right.
The next section is arcade-style games. Zombies Ate My Neighbors. For some reason, something about like the art style and sound design and just everything in general reminds me a lot of like the Rampage games, like Rampage World Tour, which is the only one that I've played. Something about it reminds me of that, and I really like that because I love that game. It's one of my favorite arcade games. For some reason, for the longest time when I saw this game, I thought that it was gonna be like a craft system based like platformer type kind of thing, where like I thought it'd be like you like go through levels and like you collect items and whatnot, and then like you go through and like craft items to like kill zombies. I don't know why I thought that specifically. That is such a weirdly specific thing, but just for whatever reason when I was little, and I saw this, that was what I thought it was gonna be. I give it a very solid A tier though. Desert Strike. So I don't know why, but for whatever reason, when I was playing this on an emulator, I had an easier time controlling it versus when I was playing it on the console. Yeah, just the controls were just complete ass in that. But I had a little more of a decent time, in like the emulator version, but still not enough to where I really go back to it. It's really not my favorite by any means. I'll give it a C tier though. Streets of Rage 1 and 2. My only thing is that I think the first game is a little bit better in the sense that like I like how you can actually change the button layout, the button layout. While in the second game you can't for some reason, which is kind of weird. To where like I just prefer changing it up a little bit because the way how it is naturally kind of messes with me a little bit. And also the first game is way easier to do like that one suplex move on people, while in the second game it is really hard to pull that off for some reason. But I do like the second game better in the sense that I think that it has better music, and I also think that like you can get better combos in it, and getting combos is easier and a lot more fun. These are both a collective A tier. Sonic Spinball. My cartridge version doesn't work. We tried cleaning it out a little bit. It still didn't work. We had to do that with a couple of the cartridges that didn't work, and doing so helped them work, but for whatever reason this one just didn't, so I only was able to play it on an emulator. So maybe that's swaying my opinion a little bit. This was better than I thought it was going to be. I definitely thought it was going to be way worse. Like, it's not too bad, but it's not great. It's a very standard pinball game. It does control like butt, honestly. To where I thought that was just a me issue, but I'm starting to realize I think that was just the game kind of sucking a little bit. I will say though, I don't like the sprite art for Sonic. It's so weird and like off model and butt ugly looking. I give this game a solid B tier though. Next section is platformers, which definitely has the most. Tiny Toons. Better than I thought it was going to be. It's a decently solid platformer. I just don't like how that gaining momentum is difficult and it takes a long time. Like, I don't think that just the game itself sucks. I think it could be a skill issue kind of thing. But it's okay. It's kind of a similar thing to Sonic 1 in the sense that it punishes you for going too fast. And it kind of feels unfair in that sense. But I give it a B tier though. Animaniacs. I usually just play through it for like a little bit and then just immediately give up once I start having a hard time. The platforming is really tricky, because like you move kind of slippery and you can't do like a dash or a run kind of thing. So like trying to time jumps over like pits, it can be really tricky and like a pain. To where oftentimes you'll just fall in the pit unless you're like trying to walk up like fast enough to it, but you can't run, so you can't do like a run jump kind of thing. You just kind of have to just get to the edge and hope you don't slip off, or like if you do jump, hope that you actually manage to make it to the edge. I give it a C tier though. Little Mermaid. Oh, sorry. I mean Ariel, Disney, The Little Mermaid. Like they said, hey, let's make Echo the Dolphin, but let's make it worse. I don't like this. I don't like this game. I do not like it. It is not fun. D tier. Aladdin. I like this game. This game's really solid. This is a game that definitely deserved that remaster port that it got like last year or whatever. I like that. That makes me happy. This game deserves it. This game is fun. This game is hard, but it's fun. Also, for whatever reason, I don't know why this is funny to me. For whatever reason, when you're climbing up the ropes, like Aladdin's like hips like just swing in this like weirdly sensual manner to where like you could almost like sync it up with the song in like the first level, which I kind of like. So I just will sometimes just kind of sit there and just do that for a little bit just because it's funny. I give this game an A tier though. This is a very solid A tier game. Lion King. I hate this game. I hate this game. I hate this game so much. I have heard rumors about the infamous I Just Can't Wait to Be King section with the monkeys. I didn't know what people were talking about, but then once I played that level, it almost came rushing back to me. when I played this game on console, I managed to blaze through the first level really quickly, and then once I got to the I just can't wait to be king section, it was a nightmare, and I had an aneurysm, and I died. I physically died in that moment, and I hated it. I hated it so much. But when I was playing it on the emulator to get footage for it, I could not get past that first section for some reason, and I do not know why. Because I wanted to get footage of the I just can't wait to be king section because it was just that infuriating. But I couldn't. And like when I did, I died immediately jumping on the giraffe heads. Like I didn't even make it to the monkeys. Like D tier. X-Men. It's alright. Like, I don't know if I'd actually go back and play it again, really. It's kind of frustrating in a similar way to Animaniacs, where you're just kind of wandering around, just trying to figure out what to do. But not as frustrating in a lot of ways. It's mainly, the main thing that's frustrating is just the enemies, and they just kind of make cheap shots. And see, or like, you just kind of, it's kind of hard to tell what's like background and what's foreground at times. So, especially in like the rocky areas in the first level. To where like when you're playing through, you can't really tell what you're looking at. So sometimes you just fall through pits. And so that's kind of frustrating. I give it a B tier though. Barbie Supermodel. It certainly is a game. Anyways, last section is all the other RPGs. Buck Rogers. I did not know this was going to be RPG. I thought this was going to be like a shooting game kind of thing, like similar to Desert Strike. It's decently fun. I liked it. That might be because on the console version when I was playing it, there was already like a bunch of characters and like save files already there that like were used even when I created a new save file to play as, which was kind of interesting. So I had a lot more people on my team to like work with. So that made battles more interesting, but when I played on an emulator version, because I didn't have any of that, it made it a little bit trickier, but it still is fun. This is a game that I would definitely go back and play again. I give it a rather solid B tier. Phantasy Star III. I have marginally less problems with this game, but I also have a lot more problems with it, to where I rank it in a spot above the second game, but that's not saying much. It's only just because it's slightly less, you know, flashy and obnoxious. Like, music is still whatever. The sprite models somehow look uglier. You move somehow slower. It's like they took away the sci-fi fantasy setting to now it's just like fantasy, which the whole charm to me of the second game was the fact that it was like a sci-fi fantasy instead of just being one way or the other. Well, this game is just straight up fantasy. The battles aren't as nauseating, admittedly, but just they're still kind of boring. Like these games just don't capture me. Like they just don't grab me. I have been giving everything a fair chance, especially when I don't know going into them. Like, I did not know what this game was. Like, I did not know what either of these Phantasy Star games were going into it. So I went into these completely blind, and I came out still hating them. Ys 3. Wanderers from Ys. Oh god, okay. I think I have never gotten this frustrated with the game over the simplest of controls. In my notes, I literally just wrote, stinky poop farts stinky. I have heard that this game kind of has a cult following, or at least this game series. If it's anything, if the rest of the games are anything like this one, God help you all. Because this is the most frustrated I've ever been trying to play a game. It should not be this nauseatingly frustrating to try and play a game and to spend 10 minutes trying to figure out how to equip something where not even the manual tells you how to actually do it. I went through and I bought, you know, sword, shield, whatever. I tried to equip it. There was only 3 buttons you can use, and I could not figure out how to equip it. I tried using one individually. I tried using combos of buttons. Like, I tried everything I physically could.
and nothing was working. If you can't figure out how to freaking equip an item in your game and within the first 10 minutes, that's a problem. This is what I was saying about how Shining Force 2 and Shining the Darkness has better UI design. Because it's easier to equip items and to figure out how to do it. In this game, I spent 10 minutes trying to figure this out. And I couldn't. Because it was that nauseatingly frustrating. And to the point where, like, I didn't even care if I was doing something wrong. If the game's gonna frustrate me that much trying to equip an item, it is not worth my time. This is not worth my time. I don't care if this game has a cult following in any sort of capacity. It is not worth my time in the slightest. F tier. Wouldn't it be wacky if EA Games, you know, a sport that's known for making sports games, suddenly decided to try to make RPG games? That'd be weird, wouldn't it be? The Fairy Tale Adventure. I do not like this style of RPG. This is the worst style of RPG ever. Especially when the text is so tiny you can't read shit. I do not mind text-based ones, but if your text is this tiny and hard to read and impossible to understand what the hell you're doing, it is not worth my time. I do not like it. It is not fun. The UI is horrendous. It doesn't even tell you what you're looking at or anything you're doing. And that is the biggest thing. If you are looking at something, it is one thing for something to not tell you what it's gonna do. Like, I'm used to that. I've played the Shining games. Items don't always tell you what they're gonna do outside of telling you stats if they're like weapons and whatnot. But they at least tell you what they are. This doesn't tell you anything of what anything is. The first time I was playing this game and I exited the town, I walked up I left the town and just walked up straight up until I hit a lake, and then I nearly drowned in the lake, and then when I got out, a guy started shooting at me, and then I died. EA, please don't ever try to branch out like this again. Like, ever. F tier. They branched out again. Might and Magic. Holy shit, this game has obnoxious music. The title screen and the actual level music. I genuinely tried to give this a shot. I genuinely did. But it was one of those things, like, I reached an enemy, I fight the enemy, and then I died. And then I was like, well, cool, I got enough of what I was trying to go for. This game, it's a first-person dungeon crawler kind of thing, where you die quickly, like, against enemies at the beginning. You know, kind of like Shining the Darkness. But at least Shining the Darkness has better music and better art style and it's more charming. This game just looks butt ugly. It is butt ugly. I hate this. It's so ugly. It looks like something off of a Commodore 64, and I mean that in the most derogatory way possible. And I feel like that's an insult to the Commodore, because I know the Commodore had some good games that people liked. EA, just why? Why? You're good at making sports games. You are good at making sports games, even if I'm bad at them and don't understand them. You made one of my favorite games on here. You made Road Rash 2. Road Rash 2 is one of the best games that I've ever played, especially in terms of like a sports game. And yet you made these monstrosities. Like, I know you guys aren't doing so hot nowadays, you know, like, making shit versions of all the other games, but like, make another Road Rash. You know, make another Road Rash. That'd be pretty based. That'd be pretty cool. That'd be fun! I like Road Rash! That'd be cool! You know, you don't have to make it super realistic. Maybe give it like a more cartoony kind of style. I don't know. Just don't ever do this again. Ever. If I ever find out there's another one like this, I'm gonna break something. I'm gonna beat the shit out of someone. I'm gonna beat the shit out of EA. There you have it. All 36 Genesis games that I own, ranked. I feel like a majority of the games that we have are kind of mid, but we do have some really solid ones. But just unfortunately, the good chunk of what we have is kind of just shovelware crap. Shout out to my dad for raising me on these games, to where I got into these before I ever got into any Nintendo related stuff. It's pretty cool. Thanks for that, Dad. You got me into
all my big hyperfixations. It's your fault that I'm like this. I hope you're proud of yourself. I don't know how to do an outro.
Hey all, hope you enjoyed that silly little video. My first time making an actual video that isn't art or dubs. That's crazy, right? I hope that it was enjoyable. I don't know, I spent way too long on this, so it better be. It's kind of funny, you never really, at least in my experience, never would have realized just how much like goes into like making videos with editing. Like it's not really something you think about off like the top of your head if you don't do it actively. It's fun. Get out.
Don't you dare fall. I swear to God, I will kill you.